as the sun is streaming in here at the Hockey Centre, so it is the new dawning of another STJFL season. We're up, we're about and we're excited because footy is back for season 2015. Let's go now and join the breakfast for the launch of the big season ahead.
Welcome everybody to the season launch for 2015 for the Crips Southern Tasmanian Junior Football League. My name's Peter G and it's my pleasure to be your MC for this morning's very convivial breakfast launch. I'm sure it will be. We're going to hear from some excellent speakers. Marcus Davies, who's a graduate of the STJFL all the way to the AFL, now back in the TSL statewide league. So we'll be having a chat to Marcus. Geoff Walsh, who's the Director of Football for the North Melbourne Football Club's come down to join us. Looking forward to having a chat with Geoff.
So we're celebrating our 21st year this year, so it's a pretty good effort, I reckon, for our competition. We're the biggest footy competition in the state, bar none. Our participation this year is around about 3,000 children or young adults, youth, because our competition ranges from under-8 right through to under-18s. As I said, we will have 3,000 kids registered and we expect that to grow even further over the next few weeks. Once the season gets up and running, usually we find we get a lot of influx in, like the AFL season opening. Kids sort of after the first couple of weeks tend to come along and register. We've worked pretty hard over the last few years with our coach forums and North Melbourne assistants with them supplying us with people to come along to run coach forums as well, which have been pretty well attended by our coaches. But it's more about monitoring our coaches out on the ground when they're coaching on a daily basis, because, you know, as everybody knows, we can go into all the theory side of things and when it comes to the practical side of things, if the coach is not doing the right thing, and I'm not picking on all coaches, but if the coach is not doing the right thing, then at the end of the season the kids drift away from that club and either don't play footy or go and play some other sport. So it's about trying to maintain those kids within the club.
I'd be silly. I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't want to still be on an AFL list. I think that's every kid's dream. Obviously, I had a couple of injuries, which everyone does, but you sort of think if I didn't have that, what might have happened. I think in my third year I was emergency for round one, just missed out. Zachy Tui got ahead of me, and then played VFL that week and did my shoulder and was out for 14 weeks. So I sort of think about how close I was there, and if I just got my foot in the door, and you know, things might have been different. But I was grateful that Carlton gave me the opportunity, because a lot of kids don't get the opportunity, and I was lucky enough to get one. So no real regrets. Just I guess you can't do anything about injuries. But yeah, it would have been nice if I didn't have so many.
Did you feel pressure all the time to just do enough to stay on the list? Yeah,
I think the first 2 years in an AFL environment there's so much learning, and you're just trying to keep up with the workload and the expectations of AFL footy. And then having said that, each year you're in the system, the pressure on you as an individual increases. You're expected to, be playing regular senior footy, and if you're not, then you sort of got to look out, because it's a pretty ruthless industry. So,
what was your relationship like with Mick Malthouse?
Obviously I had him for a year. He was very different to Brett Ratton. Brett Ratton obviously drafted me and wanted me at the club, where Mick, he came when I was already there. So whether he wanted me there or not, which he probably didn't, he got rid of me after a year. So Mick was very intense. Everyone in this room probably has a pretty good idea of what Mick's like. But I was probably more nervous for my first game under Mick in my fourth year than my first game, or my 15 with Rats. So during the week, Mick was he was very good. He's you balanced life, where Rats was probably a bit of a footy nerd sort of thing.
Mick could talk to you about other stuff outside?
Yeah, Mick would want you to have your day off and that sort of stuff. So I liked his approach that way. So there was pros and cons to each, but come game day, Mick was had pretty high standards and.
Did you get one of those sprays?
I got a couple of eyes, like the old. But I only played 2 games under Mick at senior level, so yeah, probably didn't get a chance for him to spray me.
Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, has been in football for quite some time. 1985, he first got into the administrative gig as a development officer at Fitzroy Football Club. 86, found himself at Carlton, and by 87 was the recruitment manager there, football manager from 1993, and then from 2002 to 2006 he had his first stint with the North Melbourne Football Club as their chief executive, a couple of premierships in there, and then to Collingwood 07 to 13, and even Andy Maguire has said he was the mastermind behind the 2010 premiership at the Magpies. 2014 back to North Melbourne, where he holds the current position of Director of Football. Didn't quite get to senior VFL level as a player, but played in the reserves. And Marcus, you'd be interested to know he had a tangle with Mick Malthouse, I believe, out there on the field. Mick gave him a whack at one stage. We might find out whether he whacked back. Ladies and gentlemen, he's got a reputation for a no-nonsense, straight-ahead, straight-talking figure in this national game of ours. Ladies and gentlemen, would you put your hands together, please, for Geoff Walsh, the football manager for the North Melbourne Football Club. Good to see you, Geoff. Welcome, back to Tassie. I think you did this gig last year.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did this down here about probably the same time, I assume.
Exactly. All right, we'll get Mick Malthouse out of the way. Is that just an apocryphal story, or did you tangle with him towards the end of his career, I guess?
Yeah, we did have a bit of a tangle. I was playing the reserves at Collingwood, and Mick was playing in the twos at St Kilda. And we played at Moorabbin. Pretty wet day, and the ground was always terrible at Moorabbin.
We see the sprinklers on here now. It reminds you of Moorabbin, doesn't it?
Hang on all the time there. And I tackled Mick, and my hand slid down. We both went to the ground. My hand slid down around his ankle. He just looked back and went bang, kicked me in the face, Mick, and then got up and went off. And then I worked with him for 7 or 8 years at the Pies. 7 years at the Pies, and I reminded him of the story, but he denied it, actually.
Oh, really? Did he remember playing against you?
No, I think Mick's career was a bit more of a stellar career than mine.
Well, Marcus has talked about, all too brief, I guess. Best part of 20 games, though, at a senior level. Did it hurt you that you never got, picked for the firsts?
Oh, look, footy was totally different in those days in terms of the level of professionalism. And but looking back, as Marcus said, any kid who's playing or involved in an AFL club or VFL club in those days, your dream is to play senior footy. When it didn't eventuate, I went and played in the VFA for a few years after that, which is today's version of yesterday's version of the VFL. So that was a disappointment. But having said that, you've got to move on pretty quickly.
North Melbourne's start to the season, 159-point turnaround in the space of 2 weeks. Is that what Kangaroos fans can get used to this year? A very exciting roller coaster?
I hope not. Round one was really disappointing, given the preparation that every club puts into round one. To go over there and not fire a shot was really disappointing. And then to bounce back like we did against Brisbane was really pleasing, but what you're intimating is right. We don't want to see that not knowing which team's going to turn up. There was a little bit of that last year. We found some consistency towards the end and got ourselves into a preliminary final. It's a tough competition, so if you're, I've said before at the table, we're just talking that if you're 4 or 5% off, doesn't matter who you're playing.
Can you tell that in the rooms before the game? I know as a commentator I've fallen into the trap of thinking, gee, they look really flat in the rooms, and they come out and, surprise you.
Yeah, no, not so much in the rooms, but I think you can tell, you probably can't pick the result of the game, but you can certainly tell whether your team is up for the fight in the first 2 or 3 minutes in terms of the first 2 or 3 contests you see. If a player nails an opponent at the centre bounce or he wins a really tough ground ball as opposed to one that bobbles out or that he runs past it, you get a bit of an indication of the, and that's a little bit of gut feel stuff, but often it's right.
How's the preparations going for that game? You're working with Michael about the the Richmond game. This is the one that people, in Hobart were really looking forward to, I think, to meet a traditional Victorian team. And they'll have plenty of support over there too.
Yeah, they will. And look, I think Richmond's membership is approaching, Hawthorn, Collingwood numbers these days. I was talking to Michael before about particularly a guy rang me the other day to see if he could get get a spot in one of the corporate functions, but they're all, Michael tells me they're all full. So I think that the pre-sales and the interest in the game is high. You're right about we've played St Kilda down here before. They're a traditional Victorian team, and that game is always well supported, irrespective of where the clubs are on the ladder. And I expect the Richmond game will be probably the best attended of our games at Bellerive in the short time we've been there.
Definitely. And just overall, the relationship with Tassie, do you feel that it's incrementally improving to both sides?
Yeah, well, we've added another game to our contract, and I would think that for the foreseeable future that we will be part of the Tassie footy landscape. I know our players enjoy it. We've had a couple of community camps, or we've had first year camps, or we've had a few players come down here on a regular basis for various functions. And as I say, they genuinely enjoy playing at Bellerive. They like the trip down, and I think that we are investing in the footy community pretty well, and not only at in visible levels. I think we're doing a fair bit of work in schools and relationships with some of the community groups as well. So I think we're putting a reasonable footprint into the community, and that will only stand us in good stead, because hopefully some of that support converts to membership and converts to people turning up and buying a scarf and people turning up and barracking for the Kangaroos at Bellerive.
I'm a Tassie boy, raised on the west coast down there in Rosebery, and been up in Queensland for the last 15 years and have always been involved in footy, especially at the community level, for the last 30 years. So the opportunity to come and work in the industry, and as I've often said, volunteer a lot of time, so to actually get paid to do what I love, I think it's fantastic. So to come and do it in my home state was an opportunity that I couldn't refuse.
Now, we've always seen Nick Probert at this function in previous years. Is it his position that you're now filling?
Yeah, it's somewhat of a hybrid role. Certainly the Tasmanian Football Council has taken on responsibility for community football, and that was the role that Nick was in. So all of those functions that Nick had now sit with the Football Council, as well as the objectives of the Footy Council. So that's ultimately what my role is going forward.
And you've got a good job to do today. It's to launch the season. Can I hand it over to you?
Well, thank you. I'm delighted. I'm delighted to be here. It's always great to come along to events like this, and having spoken at a number of season launches, I always say the great thing about coming to a season launch, I suppose, as someone that's been a player, an administrator and a coach, is as a player it usually means the long road running's over. As a coach, you get to find out whether everything you've been teaching for the last 3 months is actually coming to fruition, whether you got it right or whether you got to make some quick adjustments. And as an administrator, the jumpers are sold, purchased, the sponsorship sold, all the hard work's done, you actually get to sit back and relax. So season launch is always a great time, and it's my pleasure now, on behalf of AFL Tasmania and the Tasmanian Footy Council, to formally open the 2015 Crips STJFL season. So welcome everyone, thank you for coming along. Good luck to all our participants, our coaches, our volunteers, our supporters, our mums and dads and our umpires. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic season. I look forward to not just watching, but with a little guy playing, being involved and getting around footy throughout the course of the year. So without further ado, the season's open.
Good start.
Thank you.
Barry Gibson, ladies and gentlemen. STJFL, it is alphabet soup. We'll see if we can sort of trim that down a little bit, perhaps over the next few years. That might be one, Jim, to work on.
Well, there it is. The STJFL is up and about and 21 years old. Now, we think that's old. There's been a fantastic company that has been about for many a long day, since 1878, and that, of course, is Crips the Master Baker, and we are thrilled that they are on board for another 3 years for a huge sponsorship. And we have with us the CEO, Managing Director, Paul Godomsky. Paul, that is a fantastic result for junior footy.
Yeah, we're very, very happy to be involved again, and especially to extend it out for another 3 years. It's great.
Mate, I couldn't help but notice, I'm a big fan of your product, but there's been an infiltrator, this Williams. Why are we letting Williams bred in here?
Well, William Cripps is actually our founder. Back in 1844, he came to Tasmania.
Just hang on a minute. 1844, does that mean that when we call the games and we cross to Cripps the Master Baker, baking bread since 1878, we have to change it?
No, the seeds of Cripps started growing in 1844, but William didn't start Cripps Bakery until 1878, so we'll still stick with 1878. But we still hedge on the fact that our heritage in this loaf goes back over 150 years.
And you mentioned when you were talking to everyone at the breakfast some special things about this bread. It's all Tasmanian, and that's the really key thing for it.
Yeah, we challenged our bakers to come up with a premium gourmet style loaf of bread. The recipes were formulated by our bakers here. Every ingredient that's in the loaf is as Tasmanian as it can get. There's a few things in there which aren't available here in Tassie, but where we can, like flour, water, the Tasmanian pepperberry, lemon myrtle, all those types of things that are in the product are all Tasmanian.
That's fantastic. So we've got a loaf there. I'm just going to have a... Give us a hand there, Paul. That must be a lot of Tasmanian goodness in there. So we're up and about STJFL football. Let's go for the season 2015.